Welcome all to the weekly outlook. Boone here from EWPRO. So starting with DXY on the H4, we're looking at this. I was just looking for an ABC in here down to this 100 fib. It's now turned into a WX, and we're getting this wave Y. This wave Y can still go down to that 161 or maybe even further until we get that X2, and then I'll be looking for that Z down. At this stage, on the H1, you know, you really you can look for a little flag in here, but it's more of a scalp. The safest way is to wait for the X2 and then look for that Z down, and that's pretty much across the board on all the majors. Most of the majors are looking very similar. So going on to AU H4. Again, I was just looking for a WXY, X2 and a Z up. This one's continued on, and we've lost all that bearish divergence now. If I just move that out of the way. So we've lost all the bearish divergence now. So any bullish little flag in here, you could look for a buy. When we look at the H1, you can see what I'm looking at. We're in this wave Y. If you get a little flag, you can look for the buy, but it's more of a scalp. It's safer to wait for an X2 correction and then trade the Z up. And then that'll be the end of the H4, and then we'll be looking for a larger correction before we get more upside. EU on H4. Very similar. They're all, this is very similar to AU. I was just looking for a WXY, X2. We had that bull hidden here. It went up and broke the top, but now we've lost all that bearish divergence. So again, if we look at the H1, very similar. You know, we're in this wave Y. So if you get a little flag in here, you can scalp because we don't have any bearish divergence, but safest way is to wait for the X2 and then look for the Z up. GU on the H4. This one's a little bit different structure. Like I mentioned last week, we got getting an A, B, any buy set up last week, look for the buy, and you're targeting that 100 fib. It's pretty much playing out how if you look in here on my last idea on TradingView, I was looking for an A, B, a C up in here, a wave down in here to complete the B wave, and then a C up. So if you have a look here, we got the move up, we got the move down, and now we're getting that larger C up. So if you want to learn how to do all this, by all means, join the group. I mean, this is predicting 1, 2, 3 waves well in advance. So, so we're looking for this C up on the H1, very similar to the others. We're in a wave Y on the H1. So again, if you get a little flag, you can look for the buy as a scalp, and then you'll be looking for the larger X2 correction and then the Z up. NU, this one's hit the target on the H4, the first target. If I just go back to here on the NU buy, if it's going to, so here we had that bullish flag after the 5 down with the trend line break. So we had that first target and the second target. These are the weekly targets. If I just press play here, you can see it was quite choppy going up, but we have reached that first target. So now in here again, we've lost all the bearish divergence in the wave Z. So more than likely we'll get 5 up in the wave Z, and then a larger correction not breaking that low, and then we'll get more upside and possible another 5 up. On the H1, very similar to the others. We're getting this like W, X, Y. Look for that X2, and then you can trade that Z up. Like most of the others, you can look for flags in here just as scalps, but the safest way is to wait for that X2. UY on the H4. This one's gone actually further than I thought it would. I was just looking for like an A, B, C in here, and then we get an A, B, C for possible more upside. It's turned motive, and we've got a W, X, Y. We're down to that 161.8, so it becomes risky to sell just down here. You're better off to wait for a little flag on the H1. If we go down to the H1, really you're better off to wait for the X2. Like we got the W, X, Y. Wait for your X2 and then trade that Z down. But again, if you can tolerate a little bit more risk and you get little bearish flags, you can look for the sells as scalps. The Swissy on the daily, on the H4, this one's really fallen over as well. If we quickly go back to the daily, you'll see that I was looking for this one down. It's actually turning into a possible expanding flat now. I was sort of looking for more of a running flat and then more upside. It's turning into an expanding flat. We are looking for a correction of a similar size to this over here. We're starting to get that, but this one does look very impulsive. The actual top on here is, this is the top. This is a little bit higher than it is over here. So we've only got one wave down. You can only sell this at this stage. Like I said last week, it's not really giving nice corrections to get in. We did get like a WX. We're in a wave Y. You're better off to wait for a nice correction in here and trade that Z down on the H1. Pretty much like all the majors, they're very similar. Going on to UCAD, the H4, we've got this like WX. We're in this wave Y. This still can come down to that 161.8. So this might be a better one to trade if you get a little flag here on the H1, because we have a little bit more room there to move to the downside to the 161.8. The H1's very similar. You know, if you get a little flag in here, you can look for more downside in that wave Y and then wait for that larger correction, similar size to that, and then trade that Z down. GY on the H4. Like I said last week, we can only sell this. We got that A, B, C. We got the bearish divergence. So we're only looking for sells on the H1. We did get a rather weird correction here. It was a bear hidden, I believe. Yeah, it was a bear hidden. We got a bear hidden in the X2, which is unusual to get a bear hidden in a wave 2 or an X1. So this is already getting the bullish divergence. So this one I'd probably stay out. You can look for sells, but we do have that bullish divergence, so it's not ideal to be going against looking for sells going against that. EG on the H4. So we got those 5 down, W, X, Y, X2 and a Z down. We got all that bullish divergence. We got a break of the trend line. We're waiting for a correction. We got a correction in here on the H1. So we're looking for upside. We go to the H1. You can see what I'm looking at. Just can only really forecast for an A, B, C. We got an A, completed a B wave, and then we're looking for that C up. The problem here is if you go down onto lower time frames, it does look a little bit corrective, and we may get another one down in here for some sort of 1, 2, 3 in here to finish off that B. But wherever you get the buy set up, if you get a buy set up, I'd be looking for the buy. I'm not really interested in the sell. I'm more interested, if we get a buy set up, I'll be looking for the buy, targeting that 100 fib, and your second target will be that 161.8 if it turns motive. Gold on the H4. This one's really shot up. It's very surprising too, because we got such a deep pullback in here. It didn't quite break the low over here. Very deep. So I was just expecting like an A, B, C up to the 100 fib. It's extended, and we're getting a wave Y. There is no bearish divergence. So again, you know, on the H1, if you get any flags, you can trade the flags. You know, if you get a little flag, you can trade the flags, but they're really only scalps. We got a WX. We'll be coming to the end of wave Y soon, and I'll be more interested in waiting for an X2 and then looking to trade that Z up. Silver, quick look at silver. This one hadn't taken off as much as what gold has. It stuck to the structures that I was looking for as a corrective structure, as a WXY, X2. We had that ball hidden here again. We were looking for this to go and break the top. We do have the bearish divergence on this one, whereas the gold, we don't have that bearish divergence. So I'd be more inclined to trade the gold instead of the silver. The silver is a little bit more choppy. And as you can see on here, you know, between the two tops, we do have bearish divergence. So you don't want to be going against that looking for a buy. I mean, this may be an A, B, C in here as a flat. You know, you can put a buy stop just above that top, or you go down onto the lower time frames. You may get a bullish setup. Very risky, but and if you're looking for the buys, it's really only scalping. WTI on the H4. This is nothing's changed here. I was looking for an expanding flat, sorry, a regular flat here, or a running flat for an A, B, C in the B wave. It's turned into a contracting flat for an A, B, and I'll be looking for more upside up to the 100 fib as your first target, and this may be the actual end. On the H1, we are looking for the larger X2 and then more downside. But when we're at these lows, any buy setup you get, you really want to start looking for the buy, because we may not get that Z down. So this one's looking quite good. If you get any sort of a correction in here or a flag, I'll be definitely looking for the buy next week. Looking at Bitcoin on the H4, this has pretty much gone as planned. We're looking for this downside. We're looking for an A, B, C in the B wave, and then we get that C down. Hasn't quite got to that 100 fib. The thing about this one is we have lost the bullish divergence, but we're not down to that 100 fib. So any bullish setup you get, I'm only really, you can only look for the bullish setups at this stage, you know, because we're in that wave C and we haven't got to that 100 fib yet. It is sort of starting to give you, it's not the best looking, like you could look for an A, B, C in here, but you'll only be looking for it as a wave C and not as much as a reversal. But if you do get a little bullish setup in here, you don't want to miss it, because it may turn motive like a WXY, X2 and a Z up. But you'll have to, I'd definitely be looking for the 100 fib wherever this correction ends, and taking at least half off at the 100 fib wherever that is in the C wave. Because this may just be A, B, C, and we get more downside down to that 100 fib. So you will have to be a little bit careful trading this one. Looking at the S&P 500 on the H4, this is pretty much going as planned as well. I was only looking for a C up. It's turned motive. We've lost all that bullish divergence. So we've got a WXY. This can go a lot further up to that 161.8 or maybe even the 200 pip. We don't know where this wave Y will end, but it will end. And then we'll be looking for that X2 and the Z up. On the H1, again, we got a reasonably deep correction here, which we don't really like to see. We sort of got a WXY with a deep X to, I mean, there's a couple of different ways we can look at this as an A, B, C in here as a running flat, and you get that WXY. X2, you'd be looking for that X2 and then a Z up. I'd be waiting for a correction a similar size to this over here and then looking for that Z up. But again, you know, if you get bullish flags, you can look for the scalp. AU 200 on the H4. Nothing's changed at this stage since last week. We were looking for this C up. It's actually got up to the 100 fib. We do have the bearish divergence at this stage, but if this does keep on going up, we may lose that bearish divergence and it turns motive for a WXY. And then we'll be looking for an X2 and then the Z up. Looking at the DAX, I didn't do the DAX last week, so I'll just quickly go over the daily as well. Nothing's really changed on the daily. We're looking for this A. All this was a B wave, and we're looking for that C up. It's actually up to that 100 fib now. So you're really going to have to be very careful on the lower time frames. You can really only buy it, but if we do get a sell setup, you can look for the sell for the larger like A, B, C. So we have to be very careful at this stage because we are at that 100 fib and we may get a reversal from here, well, a continuation rather, you know, to the downside. And this is a correction. On the H4, this has gone up quite a bit. We've got a very deep correction here. So I was just looking for an A, B, C. But it's turned motive. So I'm looking at this in here as, I'm not looking at this as a running flat. I am looking at this little piece in here as internal, as part of this wave Y. And then we'll be looking for an X2 and a Z up. If you're looking for the buy, you really want to wait for the correction in here. And see if it's going to give you a Z up. To trade that Z up, you want to wait for the correction, a bullish setup, and then look for the buy. If you don't wait for that, it can just reverse, give you a sell setup. If it gives you a nice impulse down in here, some sort of a correction, well, then you could look for the sell. At this stage, I'd be staying out of it until the price action gives us either a bullish setup for a wave Z up, or it gives us a bearish setup for the higher time frame daily to go and break the low. The FTSE rather. I'll go over the daily quickly on this one as well because I didn't do it last week. But nothing's really changed on the daily for a long time. We're looking at an A, B, C to finish off that B wave, and then we'll be looking for that A, B, C. There may be a little bit more upside in this one, just to get up to the 100 fib. I haven't got it drawn on there, but you can draw that 100 fib. There is no bearish divergence on the H4, so if you do get bullish setups, you still can look for them, because we have some sort of a WXY. We're still in a wave Y. You may get an X2 and a Z up. You'd have to wait for that, a nice correction. I mean, this may be an A, B, C in here, put a buy stop above there, or go down onto the lower time frames, wait for this wave in here, and then if you get a bullish setup on the H1, well, you could look for a scalp just to break that top, basically. On the H1, you can see that we do have the bearish divergence already, so it does get quite risky to buy up the top here at this stage. So I hope you enjoyed the weekly outlook. If you did, please hit the like button, share if you haven't, and subscribe. enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you out there next week.